Sup, you six bitches? My name is Sterling. Welcome to the channel. This is where I like to read some of the best and most upvoted stories on Reddit. And these stories come from r/petty revenge. This is where OP plays a prank on his snoopy mother-in-law by sending his wife a very dirty, raunchy text of what he's going to be doing to her tonight when everyone leaves. And then how a college student faked a flat tire in order to get out of having to do a presentation with 3 of the laziest people in her classroom that she got stuck in a group project with. Absolutely masterful how this OP got out of it. Let's just get into it. Our first story is by some username 47. You don't like your boyfriend seeing me braless in the dorm? Then he won't. I live in a college dorm on an all-female floor. I usually wear a bra if leaving the dorm building, but I'm not going to be putting on a bra underneath my shirt just to walk down the hall to the bathroom. A few days ago, I left my room and walked 10 yards down the hall to the water fountain, refilled my water bottle, and went back to my room. I was wearing a white tank top and no bra. The tank top was fitted, but not see-through, so you could see the outline of my nipples. There was a small group of people hanging out in the hall, outside a few of the rooms, but I didn't think much of it. Until, around half an hour later, I got a knock on the door from one of the girls I'd seen in the hall. She said something to the effect of, "Hey, so sorry to ask you this, but if you go out into the hall again, could you put a bra on? My boyfriend's out there, and he was staring a little, so..." I'm super non-confrontational, so I was like, "Yeah, sure, sorry about that." And for the rest of the night, anytime I left my room, I put a bra or sweater on. And that was the end of it. Or so I thought. The next day, my roommate told me she'd overheard the girl telling a few of her friends about the incident while in the bathroom. She said the girl was making it sound like I'd been purposely trying to seduce her boyfriend, wearing basically nothing, taking my time at the water fountain, posing to push out my tits. The whole works. When she left the bathroom, my roommate said that the girl was actually acting it out at the water fountain, pretending to be me. That night, I passed the girl and some of her friends on the way to go brush my teeth. I wasn't wearing a bra. I was already in pajamas. The girl looked pointedly down at my chest, and all of them started giggling. But the last straw was when the entire dorm got an email from the RA yesterday saying that she'd gotten some anonymous complaints about people dressing inappropriately in the hallways, and asking that we just make sure that we keep things covered up. So here's where I got my petty little revenge. I knew that the girl's boyfriend doesn't go to college here. The girl and I were in the same orientation group and chatted a bit back then. I also knew that due to the pandemic, we weren't allowed to have non-student family guests in the dorm this year. So I used the same anonymous complaint form to issue a complaint about people bringing their off-campus boyfriends into the dorm and them not wearing a mask. Masks are mandatory in the hallways, although not frequently enforced. This morning, the RA emailed again saying that due to anonymous complaints, they'd be enforcing the no off-campus guest rule by checking IDs of unfamiliar guests to make sure that they were students from then on. Really, this girl should be thanking me. If she was concerned about her boyfriend seeing the vague outline of my tits in the dorm room hallways, she no longer needs to worry. That is some of the most smoothest, fuck you, pettiest revenge that is just so damn clean. I'm just like, oh, you have a problem with your boyfriend ogling my area chesticles, and you're gonna be like making fun of me, complaining, blah blah blah. Well, guess what? Here's it right back at you. That was absolutely beautifully done, OP. Like, good job. Way to really stick it right back into her. Wait, no, that came out wrong. Our next story comes from top of the morning. Neighbor took my parking spot after I shoveled. I poured water in his windshield. It was a cold winter day. 8 inches of snow had fallen the night before, and the wind chill made it feel as if it was in the negatives. Fahrenheit. I drive an all-wheel drive SUV, so I had no issues getting out. My wife, on the other hand, drives a Prius, which slides with the smallest amount of moisture on the road. My car was down at the time, so we had to take my wife's car. I spent 45 minutes in the freezing cold shoveling that car out so we could get to the store. We were gone for about an hour, and when we came back, our neighbor had taken the spot I had shoveled. Our apartment complex doesn't have assigned parking, but in the winter, it's understood that if you shovel a spot, it's yours. So when I saw his car in the spot I had just shoveled, I was pretty pissed. I went inside and filled 2-gallon jugs of water, went back out and poured them on his windshield. Rinse and repeat. I must have poured about 10 gallons of water on his car. Being how cold it was already freezing by the time I poured the last gallon on. It sat like that overnight. In the morning, I got to watch as he helplessly tried to scrape all the layers of ice off his windshield. Don't take my goddamn parking spot. Edit. You guys need to chill. This isn't Am I the Asshole? I'm not looking for judgment because I already know I'm an asshole. The point of this sub is to tell stories of petty revenge. I'd say I was being pretty damn petty. Edit 2. Sorry. I find it so funny people telling me I committed vandalism. No damage was done except for wasting like 5 to 10 minutes of his time. Ever hear of freezing rain? It does the same thing I did to his car. Never does any damage. This was also many years ago and the cops haven't come around to arrest me yet. I think I'm good. So like there's many things to say to this story. Yeah, the guy knows that he's a complete fucking asshole and he doesn't care. And really, I don't really disagree with that petty revenge because it is a massive douchebag thing to do, to take someone's parking spot and then not immediately shovel another one and then move your car over, or shovel one for the one that you just took. Now, whether someone that might just come along and take the one that you just shoveled for that person who you just took their parking spot of, well, that person who you just took the parking spot of is probably not going to care and is going to vandalize your car anyway. And yes, 100% this is maliciously done, which is vandalism. So yes, the fucker did vandalize the person's vehicle. No, it wasn't that bad. At least he didn't like try and put it in the locks and shit like that. He just poured it on his car. So it could have been way worse, but yeah, this guy deserves a good fucking punch to the face for doing that. I don't even care if the guy stole the parking spot or not. There is no parking specific for each tenant. This guy deserves a fucking punch to the face. Our third story is given to us by Can Ducks Give STDs? That's quite an interesting name. So you want to snoop in your daughter's texts. So I'm married to a wonderful woman. She's smart, funny, and very kind. Her mother is generally very nice and tends to have a great attitude and be very enjoyable. A bit of a prude, but generally enjoyable. However, can be a bit of a major snoop. If my wife leaves her phone sitting around, she will just pick it up and start going through it. My wife has kind of laughed this off as a remnant of her mom being controlling when she was a kid. I'm not a fan of this because my wife and I sometimes text about things that simply don't involve her mother and I don't feel are her business at all. So over Christmas, I saw my wife set her phone down on the kitchen counter and I had a brilliant idea. Her mom was still in the kitchen and I sent my wife the most sexual, depraved text about all the things I was going to do to her when everyone left. Honestly, most of them are things that we haven't even done, but I had to make it sound extra scarring. I sent this text from the bedroom, and maybe it was my imagination, but I could swear I could hear an audible gasp shortly after her phone went off. When I went out, her mother absolutely would not look me in the eye, then not so discreetly asking her daughter to come talk to her in the other room. When my wife came back into the living room, I thought she had been crying. However, upon closer inspection, she was laughing. Her mother had questioned her about me sexually abusing her and if I had always talked down to her like that. My wife had told her kindly that what we do is between us and us only. Probably the best gift this Christmas. OP, that is freaking brilliant. You are correct. That probably stopped that interfering Snoopy mother-in-law from interfering and snooping ever again, because she'd be like, oh, I just don't know what is gonna happen, what I'm gonna read, how scarring, how what am I gonna think about my daughter and my son-in-law now that I know there's some personal intimate things about them. I want to know what the text was. I want to know what was on that text so badly. So good. All right. Next story comes from Grape Ice Cream Float. Faked proof that I had a flat tire so that the lazy people in my group project would have to do the presentation themselves. Therefore, likely will fail. I'm in a class where a group research project and presentation is a huge chunk of overall points. Everyone knows in a group project you always have that one slacker who doesn't do anything that you have to compensate for. However, I got stuck with possibly the worst 3 to be in a project with in the class. I did the entire research, presentation, poster boards, etc., among many other annoying things myself. I tried talking to them and telling them they need to put in their fair share of effort. Ignored. I send them tasks to do. Ignored. I tried to schedule meetings. They'd say they were coming and then leave me alone in the library. This happened from the get-go. It was abundantly clear that they expected everyone else to do the work, but everyone else turned out to be just me. Rule. We couldn't have things 100% memorized word for word, and we couldn't read off anything. We had to actually know the subject. I was fully prepared to do most of the talking and even wrote down a small script for them and told them to know what to say during their part, at the least. The night before, I told them we had to meet to at least go over the whole thing one time. Once again, no one showed. At this point, I'm livid and decide they can just do it themselves, which means they'd have to get up there, not know a damn thing to say other than the small info that I gave them, and couldn't even bullshit anything because they did no research. Thing is, if we miss without an excuse, we fail the project. If you have an excuse, you have to have documentation. I commute and live an hour away, so I decided that I'll conveniently have a flat tire right before class. Went out and actually bought a tire so I'd have a receipt to prove it. Emailed the professor who said I can present myself during his office hours. Turns out, they completely bombed. And not only probably failed the project, but since they were bad students, might even make them fail the class. Edit. The professor stated at the beginning that we were not allowed to contact him about people slacking in the group, and said to work it out amongst ourselves. Said that we were adults and that he wouldn't respond to any emails about it. Then this is the perfect petty revenge for this OP to take on their classmates of like, oh, you did nothing? You wouldn't even show up to the last group meeting before the actual presentation so we could just at least go over how it's gonna go, what you're gonna say, and things like that. Like, what do these 3 people expect to happen? To just, you know what, I want to know what they were like in high school. Were they also the type of people who just slacked and allowed everyone else to do the type of work? Like, that's not cool. I am 100% behind this OP for doing this to their classmates, and even setting up their breakdown is even more brilliant. Well done. That was r/petty revenge. Hit the subscribe button and the bell to see more videos. Later, everyone. Even get kicked out of school